Hello and welcome to Movie Night with not Andy, but Gabe and our very special friend. It is an honor to have you back. Friend of the show, Chris from SuperChrisWorld on Twitch. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Gabe. What a hell of an intro. Thank you for having me back, man. I'm excited.
Indeed, me too. Now, as some of our listeners, or hopefully all of them, may remember, you and I once reviewed Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And we both certainly liked the movie. Anybody can go back and listen to our thoughts about it.
Yes.
It's a classic from my childhood and a classic from maybe not your childhood, because you're I am definitely your senior, but you seem to have watched it in your youth and liked it.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so we both agree about that. And you and I have long disagreed over the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's the movie we're reviewing today called Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Now, I understand that you have extensive notes on this and a lot of things that you'd like to say about it. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm not going to talk for very long about the movie because it sucks donkey dicks. Fuck you and your... Not you, whoever wrote the movie. Whoever wrote this movie. What was the name of the guy who wrote this movie?
Well, there was two of them, Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson.
Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson. Fuck you and your lame, failed attempt at middle school stoner humor. Put that shit in your own movie, not mine. Go ahead, Chris, and say whatever the fuck you want to say.
Your movie, yeah. Anyway. What are you, Denomalous?
Yeah, in this case, yes.
No fun allowed. Anyway, this was the first Bill and Ted movie I ever saw.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting. Holy shit. Well, that will put a different spin on things. Okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense now, and it'll make sense to everyone else. But, the first thing I want to say is that I am shocked that this is a movie from 1991. I always thought this movie came out in 1990. It feels like a movie from 1990. The softness to the image, that was just like a goofy sequel year. 90, you had like Predator 2 and RoboCop 2.
Yeah.
It was kind of the year of goofy sequels. And then you have William Sadler in this, who was from Die Hard 2 in 1990. You know what else came out in 1990?
What?
Ernest Goes to Jail.
Really? Oh, I get what you're talking about now.
Yeah, you already see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, you're right. That's very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, when you guys reviewed Goes to Jail, Andy described it as a fuck it, why not movie.
It's a good answer, Brett. Yes.
Thank you. A movie that starts with the protagonist, Ernest, getting electrocuted and these metal objects chase him around like it's fucking Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you just have to say, fuck it, why not? So when you get to that ending where Ernest is like fucking Magneto, once again, you just have to say
Magneto.
Yeah. I'm trying directly to quote Andy here, but
yeah.
You just have to say fuck it, why not? Because it's a cartoon. It establishes from frame one that it's a goofy cartoon. And that's exactly how I feel about Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Mm-hmm. Compared to Excellent Adventure, it's weird to say this because Excellent Adventure I described as a cartoon in the last video. But this, I don't know, it's like a more extreme cartoon than Excellent Adventure. And here's why. This is the big difference. No matter how crazy things get in Excellent Adventure, at the movie's core are relatable themes and morals. It's about, essentially the pressures of being a teenager, finding yourself, being accepted, and maturing enough to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
And that's all handled pretty grounded in the first movie, to where it's genuinely relatable. Mm-hmm. Bogus Journey doesn't have that. That's the big flaw of Bogus Journey. It doesn't have that. It doesn't really have that moral center. So it instead doubles down on the silliness, the humor, and the creativity.
Yeah.
What you're then left with is a movie that's more hollow than Excellent Adventure, but for me, significantly more entertaining.
Well, you used a word that a lot of, because I've been talking to people who like this movie, other than you, and they use the word creativity a lot too. I'm sorry, my friend. It's two dogs fucking on the side of the road. I don't know if that's creativity, but you bring up
No, that's so disingenuous. But go ahead.
brought up a point. It's not though. But you brought up a point about the hollowness compared to the first movie, and my issue with that is they did take away the the moral center and the emotional resonance, the arc that the two characters have at the end, but they didn't replace it with anything. They just spread the goofiness over a wider area, and that just dilutes any of that. I don't know, that to me that just kind of sucked the interest and the heart and the drive out of the thing.
Yeah, and that's true. It doesn't have that heart. It doesn't have that moral center, and it's not replacing it. Like you said, it's kind of glossing it over, or from my perspective, taking it to a new level. It's more extreme than the first movie. It's more out there. It's more creative. Whether you think it's two dogs fucking, anyway, it's more creative. It's got more ideas. It's more visually interesting. It takes everything else from the first movie and amplifies it, and I think it's for the better. It's just a more fun movie.
Well, see,
and I know that's very subjective.
No, sure. Oh, and everything, all this is subjective, and so what I'm saying is subjective. There is nothing definitive about my opinion about this, but in my view, it only detracted. It only took away. I was thinking about this and I'm thinking about this now as it's playing in the background. There are scenes in Excellent Adventure that don't have Bill and Ted in them. There's scenes with Napoleon that don't have Bill and Ted present. There's scenes at the mall when Socrates and Billy the Kid are trying to hit on girls at the mall and they call them geeks and all that, and they don't know what that means. And there are supporting characters in that movie that are just as good as everything else in it, because it was an ensemble. It wasn't just these two characters. It wasn't, as my brother used to say.
And it's not just them here. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, it is. No, I can't think of a scene that doesn't have them in it, and I can't think of a supporting character other than Death. And this is, again, I want to make this very clear. You used exactly the right word. Totally subjective. I am wrong if you feel differently about this. Death didn't do or say anything funny in that whole movie, and there certainly wasn't any kind of charm to his character the way there was with Socrates or Billy the Kid or Freud or anything like that. You never had any situations like, I'm sorry. Let me kind of zero in on this. In the first movie, when Bill and Ted go into the past, anytime they're in the past, they're a fish out of water, right?
Yes.
And then when the historical figures come into the present day San Dimas, they're a fish out of water. So you have these two juxtaposed fish out of water stories. Well, in this, the afterlife is so bizarre anyway that they can't really be a fish out of water of anything, and everything. And when they get to the present or the real world or the world of the living or whatever, it's all so goofy in its own right that it's not grounded in anything. So you don't have any of that. It's just, as my brother used to say, it's one long excuse for itself. It's these two characters being put into situations where they can do the Bill and Ted shtick, and the Bill and Ted shtick is good, and they're great actors, and they've got these characters down cold, but there's nothing else there.
You're right. It doesn't have quite the same juxtaposition. I think Death proves that completely wrong. That's the whole character. Like him, Denomalos, and Bill and Ted. On the other end, that's the whole joke there. I know you don't find Death funny. You literally just said that, but yeah, no, he's fucking hilarious.
That could be. It is totally appropriate to say that's my problem and not the movie's problem. So yeah, that's fine.
Death is the Napoleon equivalent from the first film. That's exactly what he is. He's the super serious character, completely out of touch with Bill and Ted and their time and their style, everything. And it's done better here because instead of a famous historical general Napoleon, it's the Grim fucking Reaper. It just by default, that's a much bigger contrast and funnier juxtaposition.
But
And
we
it's
don't. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And unlike Napoleon, he's actually by Bill and Ted, to be annoyed by them the whole movie. Napoleon's off doing his own thing, and it's funny.
Yeah, because nothing else in this movie can stand on its own, because Napoleon was a good character in his own right. And I'm sorry, I actually disagree with that, because Napoleon didn't understand what paying for things was, and he didn't understand what pulling was. He was such a complete asshole. He thought he had that shot in the bag, and then he completely fucked it up, and then he was all pissed off and he started cheating, because we know Napoleon is, as Deacon said, is a dick. We don't know, there's no parameters for death. There's no parameters
death. It's
for
the
that
Grim
character.
Reaper.
But we've never
it's
really,
a cartoon, but it's simple. We
we
know
only-
the Grim Reaper. It's the most obvious symbol.
But he wasn't acting like the Grim Reaper. He was just acting like some guy who, there's no nexus to that character. Look how I'm analyzing this children's film like it's a okay. But there's no nexus to that character. There's nothing to engage us about that character. When he is mad that he's losing these children's games, it's not the same as Napoleon. We're not like, oh yeah, that's something that Death would do because he's like this. It's just
Death is supposed to be serious. He's not supposed to be joking around. You've never seen any movie where Death is playing Battleship, where he's being Melvined. These aren't common things, and that's the joke. You can't honestly tell me that you would ever see Death in these situations. That's the humor of it. He's not going to be in any other movie.
But why was he in
character.
those? But why was he in those situations? I wanted to know
because of the juxtaposition. They're having fun with the seriousness of it's death. It's the most serious thing that you could possibly imagine in life. Period. And they're making it a farce. They're making fun of him. They're putting him with the two goofiest, dumbest, lighthearted people on this earth, and he's the epitome of serious, the epitome of fear and natural fears that human beings have. It's so simple. Simple.
I never really got that he was acting that way. He was always kind of acting however the movie needed him to act, as far as I was concerned. But even then, like, again, here I go way over analyzing a children's film, but I wanted to know, like, why were they even playing that whole thing where they were playing those children's games? That could have been funny if they had set it up. Why were they playing those games? Why there should have been a scene where he was like, yes, we can play chess. And they're like, well, we don't know how to play chess, but we know how to play fucking hungry hippos or whatever. And there should have been a setup for that. And then why was he losing all those games? I guess because he just lost. It should have been, I'm Death. I don't play these ridiculous children's games. I play sophisticated games.
That's a given. That's exactly why. You're saying what's obvious.
But it wasn't obvious to me.
You literally just said that. Death isn't going to play these games. Everyone would know that.
But then why was he? Then why was he?
Because that's what they picked, but that's not going to be his choice of game by default. That's ridiculous. That's the point. Death is not going to be a character. If he's a real being, he's not going to be a character in any fiction, whatever, that's going to be playing hungry hippos. He'd be playing the most famous version of him, which is the Seventh Seal. He'd be playing chess.
Which, by the way, 10-year-old Gabriel had no fucking clue what that movie was, so it didn't even know what they were making fun of.
And that's fine. I didn't know the Seventh Seal. I can't imagine most of the audience did, and that's fine. It's still the same basic idea. There's a character who's deathly serious, who would never be in these situations, and that juxtaposition is funny. It's so simple.
Again, totally valid. My own thing. It did nothing for me. It just fair. Didn't do anything for me. But no, that's okay. Let's see what else.
We've yet to actually talk about what the fuck the plot is. What happens in this movie?
Oh, I guess I should go, but welcome to movie night with Andy and Gabe. So yeah, I guess we should establish that. So, Bill and Ted. Oh God, you do it. I can't. You do it. You do it. Fuck.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, so here's the story. After the first movie, Bill and Ted save the princesses. They pass their history course. Everything's fine in the world. The future that they created is still intact. The first shot of the movie is a shot of the villain, Denomalos. He's a really uptight, lame ass from the future who wants to change the past and change the future. He's tired of the air guitaring in the future, people being so lighthearted and fun-loving. He wants to change that and bring order and stability to the future, a more dull future. In order to do that, he sends 2 robots, the Robot Us's, robot versions of Bill and Ted, to the past to kill them. Kill them, ruin their lives, and fuck up the concert that they're supposed to be playing at the end of the movie. This concert is like Bill and Ted's big opportunity to break out and establish themselves in the world. The robots succeed in killing Bill and Ted, who become ghosts that attempt to warn their loved ones about the evil robots. This sounds so stupid, but because it is, but are instead sent to hell. Bill and Ted escape hell by challenging the Grim Reaper to a set of games that they win, and then use him to get to heaven. From there, they ask God for help with the robots. The evil robots. He gives them blueprints and directs them to aliens in heaven. Aliens in heaven who agree to come back to life with them to build good robots to beat the bad ones, which they do at the concert. The villain from the future, Denomalos, he shows up, tries to kill Bill and Ted, but they outsmart him by doing the same. If we lose now, we'll come back in the future and change things. Joke from the first movie. They outsmart him with that. Denomalos hacks the cameras to broadcast their death across the world. He intends to kill him. He has this giant future gun. But they outsmart him. They beat him. He gets arrested and taken away. And Bill and Ted now have their opportunity to play the concert around the world. But they realize they still suck, so they go into the phone booth that the villain used to get to the present. To go to the past, to go somewhere in time for a year to practice how to play the guitar, how to sing, and they get married to their girlfriends, the princesses from the first movie. They come back, they have kids, they're married, and they put on the best fucking rock concert of all time for the entire planet to see. And from there, in the credits, we see that they've finally reached their destiny and have changed the world. What did Rufus say in the first movie? Align the planets, bring peace and harmony to the universe.
Communicate with animals of all life.
Yeah. So that's the plot. It's significantly harder to describe than the first movie.
That was the best synopsis for a movie that we're reviewing ever done on this show.
Thank you.
I really mean it. That you explained exactly what happened in the movie.
And that's leaving out a lot of details. But thank you.
I mean, it's the overall.
Yeah.
General what happened. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say. Like I've never seen a sequel to a movie that was made for a different audience than the first one. And I've never seen a sequel to a movie that had an absolutely different tone.
Yes.
Than the first one. And a completely different just everything. Just a different aesthetic, a different tone. It was made for a completely different audience. This was clearly going for more of an MTV sort of audience. They even did a special on MTV about it, or an interview or whatever. They were clearly trying to age up the audience a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it just happens to be the kind of stuff that you would get on MTV later that I don't like. And it just happened to be the kind of humor that I don't like, or attempts at the kind of humor that I don't like. The whole thing was just, I don't know, this was made for somebody other than the people who saw the first movie.
But it has all the same type of humor. It has all the same kinds of jokes.
Where?
The only thing that's lacking, the only thing that this movie doesn't have that the first movie did, was the heart. It's the same types of jokes. Bill and Ted are the same characters. They're Bill and Ted. That's really the strength of this entire franchise. No matter what happens, Bill and Ted are Bill and Ted through and through. They're the exact same goofy, lovable characters that can get through anything, and that's inspiring, that's entertaining, and it's funny.
I just again the first one wasn't just about them. It was about what they symbolized, and it also I'll go back to this point. It had supporting characters, and if we take Death out of the equation, because I'm not going to argue that point anymore, because it's perfectly valid if you thought Death was a great character, or if anybody did. If you thought that, then he was. But there's nothing else. There's no, again, there are no scenes without Bill and Ted in this movie. Their presence is the crux of everything that ever happens. And that was not true in the first one, because the first one had more than just that. It wasn't just about them, and it wasn't just about their... I don't mean this in a bad way. It wasn't just about their shtick. It was about friendship. It was about optimism. It was about learn. And you know what? In the beginning of this movie, Denomalus says something to the effect of, "We're not going to worship these imbeciles anymore." But at when they finally reached their goal, when they finally became a great band and changed the world through their music, they weren't imbeciles anymore. That was the whole point in the first one. They weren't imbeciles anymore. They had matured, they had learned, they had grown, and the movie just couldn't conceive of these two as anything but stupid people. And that I thought that just missed the point.
I don't agree that by the end of it they had learned a lot, but they're still Bill and Ted, and
they use the same slang, and they said dude, and they said, and everybody copied their language, but they had learned discipline. They had matured as people by the time they got into the future.
That's not contradicted in this movie though. They start off, the first scene we see them in, they are playing in a band. They have learned to at least play the instruments and sing. For whatever reason, they're not good at it. And it's stupid.
Then why did Denomalus say they were imbeciles?
Because he doesn't like their sense of fun-loving and childlike perspective on life and the universe. That future is a future where people do their homework while listening to music. It's a future where you can have... It's an absurd future. It's an absurd future, and he's a person of order, discipline, and boring.
Okay, so you're saying that he doesn't like even the matured version where everybody still actually does say "how's it going, dude" and all that, and you're saying he still doesn't like that. He wants... Okay, I can accept that. Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't want that future that he lives in anymore, where people are saying dude all the time and listening to music while doing every activity. He doesn't want that future where everyone's so light and fun-loving and all that stuff. He's a person of dull, standard, conventional order and discipline.
So in the first movie, when they said the stars will align, the planets are aligned, this whole utopia will come into being, and we'll have peace and tranquility and everything. So that only really resonated with a small portion of the population.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if Denomalus has all these people that are following him...
Well, he doesn't.
Well, he had all those goons that broke into the Bill and Ted University, and...
Yeah, that was like 5 people? Maybe 10 people at most?
Okay.
That's not a lot. That's still the minority of people that don't agree with this future.
Okay, so half a dozen people that wouldn't have... See, yeah. I thought it was so inspiring that it, like, changed... All right, I'm overthinking again, but I don't know. I don't quite get that, but
okay.
But it's fine.
I want to bring up... sorry, what were we going to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I want to bring up that you said there were no side characters in this movie. It's just Bill and Ted. I
said that there were no scenes like the one where Socrates and Billy the Kid are in the mall, and they're getting made fun of by the girls in the mall. Yeah, there isn't. I agree with that. It's not... The closest we get to that sort of juxtapositional humor is Death, but we already covered that. We don't have any other real side characters except for the evil robot us's. Mm-hmm.
These are the other characters of the movie, and I know that's It's funny, this is another Ernest Goes to Jail comparison. Sometimes having an evil version of the hero leads to the funniest situations, at least just the funniest scenes. And it works. The evil robot us's are hilarious. I think even you would agree with that.
Not really.
No?
No.
No, come on. These guys are perfectly Bill and Ted. They're exactly Bill and Ted. They have the same lingo, right down to saying station. They talk exactly the same. They have the same voices and physical mannerisms. They're childish and just come across like morons. They're exactly Bill and Ted, but evil. It's stupid evil. They're so dumb, they literally have to call themselves Evil Bill and Evil Ted. It's stupid.
Yeah.
We love Bill and Ted. We find them entertaining. It's the exact same likability, but on another side. They're so perfectly Bill and Ted. Then the scene where they're right about to kill the actual Bill and Ted. Bill punches the evil robot version of himself, hurts his hand, only for evil Bill to show that they're literally metal, dude. Mm-hmm. And in exposing his robot chest, the real Bill and Ted are so impressed, all four of them start air guitars.
That's right. Yeah, no, that was good. That was funny. Yes.
But that's what I mean. They're perfectly.
But I didn't get anything like that else from them at any other point in the movie. I didn't really. When they were on screen, they were just doing random stuff or talking to that stupid villain guy, and they weren't really. Well, they didn't really do anything. Like, the princesses were in peril for 5 minutes at the end of the movie. They weren't really doing much of anything.
Yeah, and it's sloppy.
And then in the places where they were doing stuff, like they were mean to the princesses, that wasn't very funny. There was a part where they were taking their heads off and using them as basketballs, and that scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid because I was 10 years old, and disembodied things scared me, so I didn't really find that very funny. And watching an adult now, and not being scared of that anymore, I didn't find it particularly funny either. I mean, there was nothing. The reason that the supporting cast of the original film were good and funny is because they had that fish out of water element. I mean, when Joan of Arc shoves that lady away and starts doing the aerobics thing, you can get a chuckle. You may not, but you could get a chuckle out of that because she's just doing what's like natural to her. There's some motivation behind it. But when Bill and Ted just being stupid, it was never really that funny to me. It was more how they navigated these new situations and stuff, so I don't know, the evil Bill and Ted, no, I didn't really get a laugh out of them. I never thought about that, though. You're right that is they are supporting characters in the movie, though. You're right about that.
And that's what I like, is that, you know, that they are just Bill and Ted, and we love Bill and Ted. They're Bill and Ted, but evil, and evil in the dumbest ways possible. You know, in order to lead them out, into the desert where they inevitably kill them, they call up Bill and Ted pretending to be their girlfriends, and they tell them, in one of the princesses' voice, "We've decided we're quitting Wild Stallions. We think you're losers, and we never want to see you again. We're going to the desert to be alone. It's over. Goodbye." The robots are so stupid. They come up with the dumbest lines that the princesses would never say. And the real Bill and Ted are so equally stupid that they believe them. That's hilarious.
That
fucking
was funny.
Hilarious.
That was funny. I mean, that was one of a couple of laughs that I got out of the movie. I got a couple of big laughs out of the movie, even when I saw it when I was 10. Yeah. And I was horribly disappointed and didn't understand why they were doing this to us. I still did get a couple of big laughs. And that was one of them. That was good.
Yeah, I'm glad. I concede, though, that after they kill Bill and Ted, their purpose is over, so they don't have much to do. And that's okay with me because the focus is on the journey. That's the point. It's Bill and Ted's bogus journey. It's their journey to the afterlife and back. That's the focus. So understandably, when it moves away from them, it's on to the important shit. But even then, we get those little pieces. They realize, okay, well, these characters are still in the movie. We got to have them do something. And it's not the greatest. They're just mostly fucking around. I do like that every now and then Denomalos calls him, and he's just increasingly annoyed with them as time goes by. They're such perfect... he can't stand them. They're such perfect copies of Bill and Ted that even the evil robot versions piss him off. That's hilarious. I hate them. I hate the robot versions of him. It's one of my favorite lines. Yeah.
I'm curious. How old were you when you saw this for the first time?
Oh, really young. Really young, yeah. I can't even... That's one of my oldest memories.
That's interesting. What did you see it on? Did you see it on TV or...
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to think. So we never reviewed this movie, but you and I have seen it, and anybody listening to this has probably seen it. I'm just trying to think, like, Star Trek V was,
89.
Kirk was 89.
Oh, sorry.
Star Trek, no, that's okay. Kirk was, Kirk was acting like Kirk, and yeah, it wasn't anything like any of the other films, but it was wacky and it had creativity, and it had I don't know, they had that funny camping scene at the beginning. I'm just trying to this was not a good movie. I can understand people thinking it's an entertaining movie. I can understand people thinking that it was visually interesting. I don't think it was visually very interesting, but I can understand people think of it.
Can
not
we
at
talk
all.
about that?
Yeah, sure. So as I say, it's on in the background right now, and we're at the part where they're in hell, and it looks like the Power Rangers movie. I mean, it just looks silly. It's not particularly compelling. I said to you, because we had talked about we had watched this together, and we weren't, we didn't review it for each other, but I was giving you my experience watching it for the first time. And I said to you, this part where they're in hell, I did not find it, when I was 10 years old, I did not find it scary. I did not find it disturbing. I didn't find it interesting. It was like walking in on your parents fucking. I was sorry that it happened. I didn't ever want to see it again. And that was about it. I don't find it visually interesting at all. I didn't find the first movie visually interesting either, but that wasn't really the point. It's like the kid in class who thinks they're really funny and thinks they're really clever, and you're just, oh God, and you just like that the whole time, but you can't really say anything because you don't want him to feel bad, but he's not that funny and he's not that clever. It's just, I thought it was, if I'm being honest, I thought it was kind of pathetic. I thought it was kind of, it was an absolute failure in every possible way, including the visuals, in my opinion. I did not find the visuals that interesting.
That's insane, because that's one of the strongest aspects of the movie is its creative visuals.
If people like that sort of thing, you know what? Here's in fairness, we're gonna go in hardcore fairness right now. You had introduced me to a movie that Alex Winter made, and I can't remember the title of it off the top of my head. Well, Freaked. And it was a lot like this, it had a lot of elements of that in it. And my understanding now is that Alex Winter was a little bit more involved in this one than the other one, and was doing that kind of thing. That kind of aesthetic does nothing for me and never has. So that's a me thing, not an everybody thing. So that might be one of the reasons. But I'm watching the thing now, and the Easter Bunny's running after him, and cartoon Colonel Oates is running after him, and Granny's running after him, and it just looks like something that you would see on MTV. It just looks like I don't know.
It looks like a Tim Burton movie. That's what it looks like.
It looks like it looks like a brand new filmmaker who got their start on a low budget MTV show trying to be Tim Burton. That's what it looks like to me.
No. This is David L. Snyder, one of the best set designers of all time. He did Blade Runner. He actually worked with Tim Burton on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This is Oliver Wood, who worked on Die Hard 2 the year before. Again, Die Hard 2, 1990. The Bourne movies. It's a softer looking movie than the first film, but it's more ambitious creatively. And there's so much uniqueness in the sets and the lighting. Well, not so much the lighting, but in the sets and the atmosphere of everything. This Colonel Oates' sequence in hell. We didn't even talk about any of this. When they get to hell, they're visions of hell.
Can I talk about Colonel Oates for a minute?
Sure.
Why did he fly all the way from Alaska to be at their house?
Because it's funny.
How is that? What do you explain that to me? What's funny about that?
No, it's not. I just
No,
don't
I know.
think it
I'm
matters.
fucking
I
with
just
you.
don't care.
Well,
I guess it's not
in the
that
first
funny.
well, because this is what I mean about the first movie being grounded in a way that makes you like actually interested in what's going on. In the first movie, Colonel Oates was this your idea of what a military commander would be. They didn't want to go to military school. Going to military school would be the worst thing ever. They wouldn't be able to have their band, and they'd be in this like highly structured, highly disciplinary, program. And then, but you see Colonel Oates in this movie. Why? I don't know, because we heard about it in the first movie, I guess. And he's just a fucking cartoon. And so that's right out the window.
The movie is a cartoon.
But that was so, to quote Back to the Future, but that was so stupid. The whole thing.
Again, it's a fuck it, why not movie. It
but
starts
the first
off
movie
with
wasn't a fuck it, why not movie.
I know it wasn't, but by the end of it...
This is a totally different movie for a totally different audience in a totally different genre, and put that in your own fucking movie. Don't put that in the sequel to a movie that everybody wanted to see.
Gabe.
Yeah.
When you establish that high school rockers go through time to snatch historical figures like Pokemon, and they win princesses at the end of the movie, it can only go...
No, that's not true.
It can only go...
No, it can't only go there, because the first movie didn't do what this movie did.
Because it didn't start that way. It started more grounded, and it was consistently grounded for most of it. I do concede that.
It was better constructed, and it was But like I feel, and I'm going to go back to Star Trek V, William Shatner, if you have an idea for a movie about some guy who steals a ship and wants to go to the center of the universe, make that movie. Don't hijack the fucking characters and world that I love and try to stick your own dick in it. And that's exactly what this was. And if people, and you know what? There's people that like Star Trek V, and that's great. And there's people that like this movie, and that's absolutely great. But I hope you can at least understand why I would feel that way. Like, you're using these characters as a canvas to do your own thing and make your own little middle school stoner humor, and don't do that. Make a sequel to the movie that I fucking saw and the movie that everybody liked.
Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson, their original draft for the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was them in English class. They're in an English class. They're failing the English class. Mm-hmm. So they use the phone booth to go back in time to meet the writers, or go into the books to meet the characters like it's the fucking Page Master or something. I don't know. But they had that script. They looked at it and said, this is just the first movie again. This is so unoriginal. They threw it in the trash, and they started over. They didn't make this movie for money. They didn't make this movie for stupid, hollow financial reasons. They made this movie out of pure ambition and creativity, and I admire that, and that comes throughout the picture. Yes, it's not exactly, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's very different from it, and I like that. It could have been a traditional, boring sequel. It goes the complete opposite direction.
No, I fully respect that. I fully respect that, and I fully respect them. I fully respect them for doing that. They made the movie that they wanted to see. They made the movie that they weren't worried about. Nick Meyer once said he was hypothetically addressing executives in movie companies. He said, "Why are you always trying to figure out what the people want instead of making what you think is good?" And they did exactly that. They did not think about what the people wanted. They made what they thought was good. Unfortunately, what they thought was good is fucking terrible. But but they made what they thought was good, and I highly respect that. Here's how that could have worked in this movie. Go into the afterworld and actually meet people that are interesting in it. Maybe meet we got to figure out how to get back into the real world. Let's find Harry Houdini, and now we'll find it. You know what I'm saying? You actually meet people in the afterlife that can help them on their quest. It's not going to be the same as the first movie. You can still do the wacky hijinks, but you're going to have other characters and other shit in this that's interesting, rather than just them being them, and there's nothing else in the fucking movie. Sorry.
Again, they have death. They have the evil robot Us's. They encounter Denomalos at the end. Rufus is severely underused in this movie.
I don't know what. At that time, Carlin's fee was probably a little bit more than it was in 1983 or whenever they made the first one. So
we still get Ted's dad, which leads to the best sequence in the movie.
Oh my God! What? Let's talk about that for a minute. Go ahead. I'll let you set that one up. This was one of the best acting performances I've ever seen in a movie, and I really mean that.
Absolutely. Bill and Ted have just gotten killed. They're ghosts. They realize they're dead. The Grim Reaper shows up and they fucking Melvin him, which is just amazing. But they have to find some way to warn their family, friends that the robots are trying to kill the princesses, sabotage their lives, all that stuff. So they go to the police station where Ted's dad is, and their idea is, let's possess Ted's dad so we can convince the other cops to go after the robots, because Bill and Ted are idiots. They think this will work somehow. And from there, Keanu Reeves, Ted possesses his dad. Bill possesses just another cop there. And it leads to the best performance of the movie from the actor who plays Ted's dad. What's his name? Hal Landon Jr., I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. He's 1-to-1 Keanu Reeves.
You absolutely believe that Keanu Reeves is possessing this actor. You absolutely believe that character is inside of this person and wasn't 5 minutes ago. He is absolutely embodying he's a different person when he gets possessed by Ted, and that is one of the best examples of that I've ever seen in a movie. What a performance!
It's great.
And people may think I'm overplaying that or being overly effusive. That's not an easy thing to do. I think you were just about to say the other guy couldn't do that at all. The other actor did not act at all like Bill. And he's such a different person when he's inhabited by Ted, and then again when Ted leaves him. It's just, what a performance. That was great. And a very funny part of the movie.
Yeah, when I totally possessed my dad, and they start air guitaring, and he's air guitaring, and these cops are like, "What the fuck are you doing, sir?"
And then at the end they're like, "Catch you later, cop dudes," and they just leave like they're gonna be in those bodies for like they forget. How are they gonna do?
That's great. Yeah, that's William Sadler is the best performance, but that's really, it's a small role. It's a small scene. It's not fair to compare. But yeah, that's one of the best scenes in the movie.
If we're the only thing I would compare it to is to other scenes where people are being possessed by others, and it's one of the best, if not the best I've ever seen. It's really
good. It's 1-to-1.
Maybe what's her name from The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Like I would
Linda
really
Blair.
put it. I'm serious. Yeah, Linda Blair. I would seriously put it in that category. That was fantastic.
Yeah, great performance. Yeah, we haven't really talked much about like the details of the plot. Like again, so Bill and Ted are sent to hell. They see their own visions of their personal hells. Ted sees the Easter Bunny because his regret is eating his brother's candy like 10 years earlier. Again, this is how stupid these kids. This is why I love Bill and Ted. I've said this in the last review. These are characters that are too dumb to realize the scope of the situations they're in, and that's where the comedy comes from. They're idiots. They're idiots who should not be in the movies and the plots that they're in, but they are, and they succeed, and it makes it funnier. So yeah, their hells can't be like, they're getting tortured or mutilated. No, it has to be the dumbest kid shit because they're Bill and Ted. Bill's vision of his big fear is being kissed by his grandmother, the ugliest thing that I've ever seen. The makeup is excellent, where she has
very good.
She doesn't have a mustache. She has I don't even know what to call that, where it's just nothing but hair with her lips. She wants a kiss, and that's Alex Winter in makeup having a fucking blast. Everyone just seems like they had a great time making this movie. Mm-hmm. The one exception is Denomalos, Joss Ackland. He said he regretted being in this, which is hilarious that Denomalos hated being in this Bill and Ted movie.
That is ironic.
Fits the character.
The irony is very funny there,
Yeah. So yeah, they're in hell. They see their own personal visions, including Oates, like we talked about earlier. And they have already met Death, who told them, if you play me and win, you get to come back to life. But if you lose, you'll be in the afterlife forever. Well, now they're in hell, and he tells them, play me, and if you lose, you'll be in hell forever. So Bill and Ted, they finally say fuck it. They call the Reaper and they challenge him to a game. And they play Battleship because they're Bill and Ted. They start off with Battleship.
And then
we
Death can't accept that he's lost, and so he keeps saying,
Death is a sore loser. We find that. Death is a sore loser. I love that as we go forward in the movie. There's just these layers on Death that are peeled back. We learn that he's like so insecure, needy. He's a sore loser. We get him to open up a little bit more, and leading to him playing in the band at the end of the movie. And that's why I love so much about Bill and Ted. You say that they don't have like any influence on the characters. I think Death is the best example of that in this movie. It's not as many characters in as the first movie, but they do have a legitimate effect on him. He Melvins Denomalus at the end of the movie. He gives the Reaper rap and is willing to jam in the band. They even turn Death around. That's fucking hilarious.
Going back,
charming.
And this is just my perspective. Going back to the Back to the Future, but that was so stupid. The Death character is one of the most. This is a me issue, not an anybody else issue. I thought he was pathetic. I didn't think he was ever funny. I didn't think he was ever interesting. I thought he was incredibly, as the kids say today, cringe. He was one of the first cringe characters. To me, he was like Jar Jar Binks. So I never had the experience of saying, "Oh, Death was this great character." So that's just my perspective, but. That was like the character that I liked the least. That was one of the big reasons why I hated the movie.
William Sadler has only ever played like villains or serious dramatic roles in other movies. He was in Shawshank. He was in Die Hard 2. He was in Hard to Kill. He was in Iron Man 3 as the president. He was in Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, which is a funny movie, but he's pretty straight-faced throughout. This was his one big comedy role, and he goes all the way with it. Just at the bare minimum, just at the start of it, just the lowest level, he talks with this stupid, over-the-top, faux European, vaguely unidentifiable European accent, where he mispronounces a word in every single sentence he speaks. This is how he speaks in the movie. You have sunk my battleship. Oh, now what? That's hilarious. Again, that juxtaposition. He's Death. He's the robed, white-faced scythe. Like, the first shot we see of Death is actually kind of creepy. It's Bill and Ted looking off in the distance, and they see him in the distance. He vanishes, and then he pops up right behind them. Like, he's fucking Death, and that juxtaposition is hilarious. You're expecting, like, if you have any knowledge of Death in media of The Seventh Seal, the Swedish film, and you maybe expect him to do a Swedish accent. You don't expect him to go like fucking Looney Tunes. You don't expect him to be like so over the top that he'd be a character on The Simpsons. That's hilarious. And he does it all. That voice is never like brought attention to it. He just does it and he's straight faced throughout. They never mention like your voice sounds kind of weird. You sound stupid. He just does that voice and lets the audience just chew on it and enjoy. So that's just the bare minimum. But his performance is great. He's having a blast. He's screaming in the van and being the butt of the joke the whole rest of the movie, giving the best lines. And it was ambitious. This is something that, again, William Sadler really enjoyed. He's coming up with ad-libs. He was coming up with ad-libs a lot of the time. There were some jokes that weren't originally in the script that he came up with on the spot. Like the one where he's in the hardware store while they're shopping for machinery to build the good robot us's. Just saying this, it just makes me laugh. It's so stupid. They're finding materials to build the robot us's. He walks past a guy who's smoking and says, "See you real soon." It's just fucking hilarious. That guy you already know this, was Peter Hewitt, the director. And do you know why?
No.
Because they came up with that scene like 5 minutes before they shot it. Because that was something that William Sadler just came up with, and the director liked it so much he put it in the movie. Everyone was having a good. Everyone was having a good.
I didn't think that joke was funny, but that's cool that that's cool how that was constructed. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm being a downer. You
really are Denomalus.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess in this instance, that is absolutely appropriate. But you had pointed out when we were talking about, or when we had watched the movie earlier, that and I hadn't thought about this. I thought this was a really good point. this is one of the first examples that you could think of Death being a comical character, and that became kind of a little bit more common as things went on in Family Guy and Billy and Mandy and a whole bunch of other media. But this was the first example of Death being in a wacky comedy like this. I thought that was a good point. That's interesting. It was a bit ahead of its time in that sense.
Yeah. And Billy and Mandy and Death on Family Guy, they're funny in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Death is serious.
Yeah.
Let's make it, these situations are him stupid. It's Norm Macdonald who's Death, and he's giving these dry jokes the whole time.
Right.
And carefree and laid back. And Billy and Mandy, he's being tormented by these kids. By default, we know that Death, if he's, the Grim Reaper, if he's a character, he's serious. So the juxtaposition, we put him in these funny situations, that makes it funny. It's so simple. It's so simple and obvious.
And I think you're right that all of those things were sort of a series of footnotes to this movie. I think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, Death, even Roger Ebert shockingly gave this movie a good review. He was saying in his review he singled out Death as being like the biggest source of his laughs. And it's true, because he's the best character with the best performance. William Sadler's hilarious. He's doing a great job, progressively getting more and more over the top as it goes on, because, again, Bill and Ted are infectious. I love that so much. Bill and Ted are so likable that it always rubs off on everyone else. Even the fucking Grim Reaper.
They changed the whole world of
they changed the whole world. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
that's right.
I like that too. The Death character did nothing for me, but if he did do something for you, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Joanna and Elizabeth, the princesses. This is very important. We talk about them.
Well, it wasn't very important to the movie because they weren't in it. But
once again, they're not characters.
Well, they weren't characters in the first movie either.
Exactly.
And to be fair, I thought at the end of the first movie when it said, "Oh yeah, they're in the band, they play instruments," I was like, "What? Well, that's fucking stupid." So I never liked their inclusion in the material anyway. So that's not a fault of this movie.
Yeah, they're non-characters. In the first movie, they're the prize, and in this movie, they're the damsels. In distress.
And nothing about them bothered me in this because I never cared about them anyway. So
they only exist, for that purpose, and also to be part of the idea. See, this is the internal, personal struggle of the movie. Bill and Ted want to mature. They want to start, the beginning of the rest of their lives. They want to finally get good at the music. They want to get married and potentially have a family, start a family.
Boy, I wish the movie had been about that.
I do too. I can't disagree with you. It is messy. It's a messy script. I don't disagree with you. The first movie knew how to blend the personal, internal struggle with the plot. This movie is more focused on the plot. And I don't mind that because it's one of the most unique plots in scripts I've ever seen in my life. If I describe a single scene from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, there's no film on this earth that comes even close to matching that description. There's a scene, okay, just completely random. Okay, Station is building robots in the van. Just the most simple thing. But you have to stop and realize this is an alien from heaven, which is already hilarious. An alien from heaven who Bill and Ted, these fucking rockers, visited and brought to life through Death, through the Grim Reaper, to stop evil robots from killing their girlfriend and ensuring a bad future for humanity. Where on this earth are you going to find a movie even remotely close to anything I just described? Not even a tiny bit, just the tiniest bit.
Okay, so Tom Green's in the hospital, and he goes in, and there's a woman that's giving birth, and then she gives birth to the thing, and the umbilical cord's still attached, and he's like, "Oh, I heard that you have to move the baby around to get it breathing," so he starts swinging the infant around over his head by the umbilical cord, and then he bites it Sorry.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. You like Freddy Got Fingered, but hate this.
Yeah, I did, but you know what? When Freddy Got Fingered was a better movie than this. It was funnier. It had more of an arc at the end. The emotional resonance at the end of Freddy Got Fingered was more like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure than this was. People who went to see it wanted to see something like that. I don't know, and I think I could say this. I think I could make the same case for the scenes in Freddy Got Fingered. I could say, where could you ever see a scene like that? But I'm being a little bit hyperbolic because there's more. It's what you described is not like Tom Green swinging an infant over his head, but it's I don't know. I just want to.
And even then, that's just like it just comes out of nowhere. This plot is actually flows. It actually flows
What?
properly
Where?
for the most part.
Where? Oh my!
It's so simple. Again, these robots come back, they kill them, they go to hell, they beat the Reaper, they go to heaven, they come back to stop the robots. It's not a great script. It's very messy, but it's straightforward. It's pretty straightforward and flows properly. There's a lot of bumps in that road, but it's a pretty straight path. I think overall.
Well, I just mean the part where they're no, I don't understand what. Well, I don't know how they got to heaven, and I don't know why there were. But it's like they thought they needed this alien thing in there because that's whatever these people wanted to have in the movie. This special effect and these costumes, but I guess we went to hell, so we have to go to heaven too. So I guess the aliens will be in heaven. See, I didn't think that was funny. I thought that was nonsensical in a not funny we didn't write this properly way. We had a whole bunch of ideas and we just kind of threw it all together because we wanted to have these images on screen. I didn't really find that funny, but when you explain it the way that you did, I can see why that would be. But I don't know, man.
It's just a simple joke, and it's even if you don't find it funny, it's still like you can still understand the joke, at least, that there are aliens in heaven. Even Death points that out. You thought the most brilliant minds in the universe would be from Earth. Like, it's
well, that's something you would say, but that's something you would say if you were going to meet a scientist on, like, a planet or something. Why are they in heaven? Why is that a joke? I didn't even know that was a joke.
Oh, because it's convenient for the plot, because they're already in heaven.
So the movie's kind of made badly, and that's why they're not ashamed of that, and that's the thing that's supposed to.
No, that's made because they didn't go to a planet to meet. No, let it come from the story. They're already in heaven. Just have the characters
but it's not,
be dead.
First of all, but you want aliens in this thing. But you have to have them go to heaven because they went to hell. So just have the aliens be in heaven for some reason. That's not
because that's ridiculous. Because that's like the opposite. In the entirety of the universe, it's our Christian God. it's in the entirety of the universe. All life in the universe goes to Christian heaven. That's funny. That's again, it's stupid.
Did the movie say that? That never even occurred to me watching the movie. It's like
Death says, did you really think the greatest scientists would be from Earth? Then it's people from other planets. That's the thing. Everyone in the universe
I guess
apparently
it's just
goes
the fact
to heaven.
that they're like that has nothing to do with them being in heaven, though.
That screenwriter, they're already in heaven. Just make the characters dead. It's simple. It's pretty simple, and yes, it's convenient, but it's straightforward. They got to heaven.
It's just aliens in heaven don't connect logically to me, and I don't think they connect logically to most people. and I didn't. That just no. I mean, not no, but no for me, not no for necessarily everybody.
That's fair. I like the joke, and I think they're it just adds to the weirdness, uniqueness of the movie. It's that sense of anarchy and originality in making this movie. Let's do the exact opposite of what you expect for a sequel, but comedically. We'll still be the same type of humor. We'll still be as comedic and ridiculous as we were in the first movie, if not significantly more so.
I don't agree that it was any of those things, but I respect your view of it, and your view of it is not wrong. My view of it is not necessarily right. What can I say? In the grand scheme of things, I saw the movie Mr. Wrong in the theater.
You want to know something funny?
What?
That was co-written by Chris Matheson.
Mr. Wrong was?
Yeah, that's funny you should bring that up, yeah.
Fuck. Well, that fucks up my sort of redemption arc that I was going to give this thing. But wow.
Yes, the least funniest movie ever made. Yes.
Well, it's not even it's not even least funny. It's the opposite of. There's nothing. It's just uncomfortable, and a lot of this was too. if I had been 14 years old and smoking weed watching this, watching Bogus Journey, no, not even then. This is the 3,946th worst movie I've ever seen.
The 3,000. What was the number? 3,000?
3,946th worst movie I've ever seen.
Okay. Well, firstly, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. And secondly, if you haven't seen the Bill and Ted movies, please check them out. Both Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. These movies, both of them are hilarious, and you're going to have a good time watching them.
Well, there you have it. If you like smoking a bowl and watching robot us's murdering Bill and Ted in the desert and them going and possessing people and doing all this ridiculous shit, fucking have the best time. I envy you. It's absolutely great. So there.
And similarly, if you want your movies to have any sort of structure and a moral at the center of it, please check out Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Amen. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for this. It was a blast watching this with you, and it was a blast talking about it with you. And we will absolutely have you on again. Everybody can look forward to that. And I thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. This was great, as is every time I'm lucky enough to hang with you guys and talk about movies. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing this again. Thank you.
You got it. Tune in next time as me and Andrew discuss insert title here. Bye.
Bye.